Welcome, everybody, to the Cone of Shame Veterinary Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Andy Roark. Guys, I'm here with the one and only vet tech, Kelsey Beth Carpenter, and we are talking about a recent sort of string of veterinarians and vet medicine getting vilified online. There definitely seems to be increased animosity online towards veterinarians. There's a lot of people who are understandably upset about the rising cost of medicine, and they maybe take it a little bit far. I asked the question with Kelsey, should we just accept this? Is this just where we're going? Is it worth even engaging with these people? I don't know, guys. I wonder if some people are going to be bound and determined to vilify those of us in the vet profession because they're frustrated about the cost of care. And I don't know if we can talk those people out of that. And I don't know if we should take it personally or not. So anyway, those are the type of things that we get into and discuss. It is a really fun episode. I hope you guys will enjoy it. Let's get into it.
This is your show. We're glad you're here. We want to help you in your veterinary career. Welcome to the Cone of Shame with Dr. Andy Roark.
Welcome back to the podcast, Kelsey Beth Carpenter, RVT. How are you?
I'm pretty excited. I think this might be my third time on the podcast.
We have a special jacket that we give to people.
I was hoping it might
who have been on the podcast 3 times.
Like a robe or something, you know.
It is a robe. It's actually one of those. It's actually an isolation gown. It's just it's a disposal one. Don't tell the clinic. I take them and I give them to our 3-time guests, and that's what you get.
I can't wait.
So just put this on now and just turn and turn and turn, and I'm gonna hand you the tab. It's that. All right. Thanks for being here. You know, for those who don't know you, you've been a social media presence. You write music for vet medicine, which I love. You are the social media manager for DrAndyRoark.com or Dr. Andy Roark for me.
Yeah,
you're my social media manager. You work for me is what I'm trying to get at.
We're talking in third person now.
Exactly. You know, your podcast is successful when you talk about yourself in the third person. Yep. That's the prime measurement of success, I think, and that's how I tell when people are making it. Anyway, I had something that I wrote a couple of weeks back, and all that stuff sort of goes through you and you see it all, and you just specifically, you reached back out and you said, I think we should talk about this newsletter that you wrote. And what it was it was around the time that guy was on TikTok, and he was just ranting about the vets marking up the blood work and just really vitriolic, and he was talking about it was a scam and what the prices were and stuff, and there was just tons and tons of people that were online, and this was just a huge debate. Was this angry person saying that vets were horrible and they were gouging pet owners, and I wrote about mentioning it to my brother, and so I was talking to my brother, and I sort of mentioned, there's this guy and he's raging, and my brother was laughing, and he started laughing because he said, Andy, I'm a lawyer. The idea that people saying bad things about your profession on the internet is upsetting to you is just a foreign concept to me.
Yeah.
And I thought about that because my brother's like the nicest guy that I know. He does wills and trusts, and so he talks to people about the end of their life and what really matters to them, all day long. And he's a lovely, wonderful person, and I'm sure he does not get down about what people say about lawyers on the internet. And so anyway, that was sort of what I had written about, and you sort of reached out and were sort of saying that it was something of interest. And so you and I, the last time you were on the podcast, we talked a bit about, you were kind of sort of stepping back a little bit from social media. And yeah, so let me sort of start there and kind of open it up. Are you still sort of having that stepping away from social media kind of vibe, or are you drifting back into being a part of that sort of community?
I will say I drifted back in simply for the fact that I had a plant recently that the leaves were turning brown and I really needed plant advice.
Yeah.
That's the extent to which I've used social media recently. I've still been kind of staying away a little bit. I don't know. The vibes are off. My vibes are off. I don't know how much of it is me and how much of it is social media. I suspect it's a little of both. And I feel like you've had some similar feelings about social media recently too, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have. Some of it's about social media, and honestly, a lot of it is about our industry as a whole. Yeah. And so, like, I went to the AVMA convention recently, and it was great. It was a lovely convention. They did a great job. But, Kelsey, I feel like our industry is changed in some fundamental ways. There's a lot of money that has come into our industry, and you can sort of see it in the exhibit halls where there's not as many small companies as there used to be. Like definitely there's a bunch of small companies, but there's not many mid-sized companies like there used to be, or they're not big enough to have exhibition space and things like that. But there are some really big companies, and they're publicly traded companies. And it feels like we're hearing more and more about a focus on the bottom line and generating revenue in these companies and stuff like that. And it wasn't that vet medicine in the past didn't care about being profitable. They did, but it did not feel to me as profit driven as a lot of companies feel today. And again, I just have a sort of interesting perspective, I guess, because, these people, I get asked to speak and present for people. And with Uncharted, we're always sort of talking about conference sponsors and things like that. And there is definitely a focus on return on investment that I have not seen in the last 15 years before, of just this directness of we're here to generate money. And I don't know, I'm getting that vibe sort of inside of our profession. And this is the same time that there's sort of been a string of articles in the New York Times coming out talking about people not being able to afford their pets' care and why is the cost of vet medicine going up so much. And anyway, it kind of feels like this sort of storm of,
yes,
there's outside attention. Yeah, there's outside attention about the cost of medicine. And again, medicine is getting more expensive. It's just part of it's inflationary, but the cost of medicine is much more than inflation. And I'm sort of rambling here, but the other part of that I look at is, we're at the convention, I'm looking around, and this is not tied to the profit-driven companies or anything, but I'm looking around, and outside the convention hall, there are these big advertisements for Librela, which is an amazing product. I mean, it's a game-changing product.
Yeah.
I mean, again, and people have their emotion. There's not a promotion for that product specifically, but just the idea of Librela is amazing. Yeah. This injectable pain control that works this novel way. And Elanco's got their monoclonal antibody anti-parvovirus drug that, again, game changer. Like it's from what I've heard, it's fairly magical in the impacts on some of these parvo cases. And then you've got Seva's got Panaquel, which is an anti-pancreatitis medication that works in this novel way, this anti-neutrophilic inflammation control. And anyway, the point in all this is not to plug products at all, but just to go, there's just these new things that are rolling out that are amazing and just things we didn't have in the past. And so, yes, the cost of medicine is going up. The capabilities of medicine are also increasing. And so I don't think this idea that vets are gouging people, I don't buy into that. But anyway, I'm sort of concerned that public sentiment is turning against veterinarians in a way that it hasn't in the past. And so I don't know, from what you sort of see online, do you agree with that?
Yes, painfully so. I think, gosh, there's just so many things that go into what you just said. But I think, we saw this beautiful change, this gradual change over time where people are seeing their pets as such a bigger part of their lives, right? And taking their health a lot more seriously and being willing to invest a lot more. How many people 50 years ago were willing to drop thousands of dollars on a bloat surgery? Like who knows? It was a lot different of a market. And then we're also seeing education and things expanding like crazy because of technology and our ability to communicate and all these things. And so things are growing in this beautiful way. But at the same time, the way housing and the economy and inflation and everything is happening is also making that a very ugly thing. So it's just, I think one of the things that's difficult for us as veterinary professionals is that, at least for many of us, like myself, probably for you as well, when we went to get into medicine, social media was not yet a thing, or it was not yet as big of a thing as it was, right?
Yeah.
And so the only thing we had to go off of in terms of reputation for veterinary medicine was, what did society see it as? And I grew up seeing medicine as this beautiful, admired, heroic thing, right? Like every show you watch, every movie you watch, every advertisement you see was about these people being absolute heroes, and that's how we saw them. The introduction, I think, of social media and technology and things has allowed more people to have a voice and contribute to then the public perception of who we are. And so I
Yeah.
went into this field thinking, my mom was a neonatal intensive care unit nurse. I thought she was an absolute hero. And I thought, I want to be in medicine. I want to do that kind of stuff like she did. And now I find myself in a field that people are seeing a lot differently than when I first got into it. And I think social media contributes to that in a large way. I'll stop there. What are your thoughts so far?
Well, okay. So yeah, I think one of the things that I wonder about is what is the perception that we see online, and then is that what people actually hold in their minds? And so up until about 2016, I kind of thought that social media was a fairly accurate reflection of what people in the U.S. were thinking. So if you heard a sentiment on social media, it was kind of a mirror of what people actually thought. And I think that was much more true back then than it is now. And a big part of that was when social media started out, there was no algorithm. Everything was chronological of you followed your
Good
friends. And then when they posted things, it was in chronological order. So you're seeing people that you knew. And they were trying to get attention, but it was not playing to an algorithm trying to get a ton of attention. It was generally, hey, these are people that I know, and this is what I think, and I'm sharing my thoughts. And then the algorithm changed everything because the ability to reach huge numbers of people was there. If you could make this algorithm happy, it wasn't about reflecting what you actually thought. It was about playing this sorting game to get the biggest audience. And so I saw some research that came out. This was a couple of years ago, but I've memorized it because I think it's so valuable. But this guy was doing research on sort of social media and what made posts get a big reach. And there was 4 driving factors. And so negativity drives engagement. People tend to respond to things that are bad or that are scary or that are bashing something else. They like that. It gets them to engage. Number 2 is extremism. People don't respond to ideas where I say, I think ice cream is okay. That's not, ice cream either has to be the best thing ever or ice cream should be banned.
Absolutely.
And those are the 2 positions that will actually get some attention. There's emotional and moral language, which is anything that pulls on your emotions or that talks about this is wrong. That's a big one. And then the last one is in-group, out-group differentiators of we need to come together and punish those people over there. Those are the 4 big drivers. And when I think about the guy ranting on TikTok about the cost of vet medicine, it was definitely negativity, but it was all emotional and moral language. And there was a bit of extremism there about it wasn't I'm unhappy, it was these people are the worst. And so all those things sort of combine. And so anyway, if you buy that those are the big drivers of social media, you can see that what we're going to see on social is not representative of the average person. And so I see a lot of negativity around the vet profession online, especially, New York Times puts an article out that says prices of vet medicine are going up. Like, don't read the comments. Just don't.
Oh, geez, Louise,
You're not going to see a biased response there, or a fair response there. It is going to be highly biased. And so I don't know. That's why I say I'm looking at it. I'm still a little bit wary of drawing parallels between what I see online and what actual clients seem to think. I don't know. I think that's kind of where my head's at in that regard.
I've never thought about it that way, that maybe it's not the reality of what people are thinking. I think maybe the people posting, it's not always the reality of what they're thinking, because you're right. A lot of people play into back 10 years ago, we didn't have the term clickbait, at least that I remember.
Yeah.
Now, half the content on Instagram is clickbait. The people posting the clickbait stuff, maybe that's not how they truly believe. But then the people receiving that clickbait stuff, I think oftentimes those people commenting are truly feeling emotions around it. And what's funny is when you list off those 4 drivers of engagement, at least when we're talking about more negatively influenced posts, they're all fear-based. It doesn't matter if it's the emotional strings or if it's the polarization. All of it is fear-based. And so, wow, that post that we were originally talking about from this human doctor, I can absolutely acknowledge it was frustrating. It made me immediately feel defensive. It was just nasty. It was not cool. As a pet owner, I can absolutely see why people would watch that video, feel intense fear about the ability to pay for their own pet's medical care and believe it, right? And I think one of the things that I've noticed that we may be lacking in our industry, we have very little, at least that I'm aware of, client-facing social media presence in the veterinary medicine industry. We have, I'm going to get canceled for this, but I'm wearing my Ninja Turtles shirt. I'm feeling rowdy today. We have plenty of people posting their fig scrubs. Those are very industry-facing influencers, right? Which we need industry-facing influencers. I'm not negating that. Like people posting fantastic, I was watching Toothy Thompson and Dr. Sue Cancer Vet. I love their content. I learned so much from it. So those are important accounts. But what we're really lacking is we don't have a lot of client-facing social media accounts, or the ones that we do are simply based on cute videos of look at this vet who won over this scared dog. They're not education based, right? And so I think part of the problem we run into is we've got this human doctor, talking negatively about our industry, and yet where's the other side of it? Where's our side? Why we don't have the proactive side? We have the reactive side, where I really like Dr. Peter Weinstein's take on an episode of The Cone of Shame recently, where he was saying he actually really liked the way that things like that bring our vet med community together. The way we come together in those moments when we are being attacked actually is extremely powerful, and I do admire that. At the same time, what I wish we had was more proactive content going out there. So I love that people did react to that and tried to put out more content to let clients know, actually, here's the reality of how it works. But imagine if we could get that out before people were claiming otherwise, right? That would change the game for us.
I don't know if that's possible.
You don't think
Do you
so?
think it's possible? So here's the analogy that popped into my head is if you and I were to go online and make a video about how the earth is round. And we're like, look, guys, the earth is round and this is how it's round. It's like, it seems pretty boring to me. But if we went on and made a video about how the earth is flat, we could get some attention. There's a certain group of people who would be like, yes, finally somebody's saying it. And so it's real. It's really hard to make positive educational content. There's ways to do it. I think you and I have worked together on those stuff as far as making some, funny, positive videos about enjoying the profession. But it's much harder to do that than it is to just find something, call it evil, and try to, tear it apart. I just think that's the easy button.
I do agree with you. And I also feel, you speak about our trust bank in veterinary medicine. And I do feel that if we had more of that kind of proactive content going out, it does build trust to some level. I also think we're speaking to a very different audience now. There are a lot more intense, very helicopter pet parents now. I say that lovingly because I am one. But there are a lot more people out there who want to know what's going on with their pets, and they want to better understand it so that they can come into the vet more prepared. So you picture how well would a video do if someone sat there and said, let me tell you one of the most common things we see at the vet. I have seen at least 500 times in my career, people bring their dog in with a tick and it turns out to be a nipple. Okay? How well would that do on social media? And then people could explain, here's why it's confusing, here's what you can do, etc. Right? That builds our trust bank already. So that then when someone does say something negative about us and we can come back and say, hey, I want to break down and show you how these markups work for our bill, that trust bank is already starting to build. And so they're going to believe us rather than us coming at it from a defensive perspective and they've never heard from us before, right? Like, I think that's where it could be helpful. I do agree with you. The negative content's always going to kind of try to outshine us in the algorithm, but I still think there's potential there. If I was not in the vet industry, I would for sure be following. If there were some vets out there, some veterinary technicians, some vet tech specialists, and they had accounts that were doing education on dogs, and I have a pet dog, I'd be following those accounts for sure.
Yeah, I think that there's something to that. I think it's a harder. It's kind of like in Harry Potter, where if you're on the bad guy team, you get more spells. You get to do the unforgivable curses.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And if you're in the good guys team, you don't get to do that. You don't get to just Avada Kedavra someone and their dad. Like, it's super easy shortcut, but you're not allowed to take it. But the bad guys can do it. Yeah. And I feel like that's sort of true in vet medicine because there's an easy button of just being negative, being extreme, leaning into moral and emotional language, things like that. And when you're trying to positively educate, you don't get to use those tools that are so successful. But I do really like your idea of if you make things and you put them out there, especially if you can get your clients to consume that content. I think it's a possibility. I think you sort of swung me a little bit. I think that my take with this has been recently, I think that veterinarians in practice probably need to start tightening their focus down on who they're looking at. I can't do anything about some guy in Arkansas. I don't know where he was, but some guy in Arkansas losing his mind over his vet bill. Like, I'm in South Carolina, it's not my client. Even if he was my client, I don't know that I could make him see the world differently. But he's not my client. And the people in the comment section generally are not my clients. My clients who know me, I think, to your point about Trust Bank, I think that they trust me and trust the practice. And again, that's the only thing that I can control, right? So going back to my brother, he goes out every day and he helps people and helps them with their family and making the plan for the end of their life. And he doesn't sit around and read what people are putting on social media about lawyers. And I think that we are so compassionate and we care so much and we worry so much that people are not going to take care of their pets if they get bad information. I don't know that it's viable to hold that type of anxiety, I don't think we can continue to take these things personally. Yeah, I think this is sort of a new experience of being sort of vilified, and I think we have to let it go. But I think you have affected me, and I tend to focus a lot on what can we actually control, and so I do think taking some time and saying this is how it is, or these are the things that we're trying to do, or these are the things that we think is important, and not doing it in an emotional reactive space that just spins the whole, debacle up and gets more views for the angry people making, extreme content. I think that's probably the way to go, but I don't know. Hey guys, I just want to jump in real quick. The Team Lead Summit is coming from Uncharted Veterinary Conference. Guys, the Veterinary Team Lead Summit, it is for your veterinary team leaders. This is your lead technician. It's your lead CSR front desk person. It's your kennel lead. It's your office lead. It is anybody who is managing people on the ground, in the trenches, on the floor. Those, your team leads. That's what it is. This is a one-day, it is a virtual event. It's super accessible, super affordable, super available, super practical. Kelsey Beth Carpenter, who's on this episode that you're listening to right now, is going to be speaking at the Team Lead Summit, and it is kicking off on September the 18th. That means registration is going to be closing soon. You have got less than 2 weeks to get registered for the Team Lead Summit. Jump on that. Take a look at it. Head over to unchartedvet.com. Put a direct link in the show notes. You don't want to miss out on this. If you're like, I don't know if this is for me, jump over there and take a look. I love it when practices send multiple team leads. It is something great for them to do together. They get inspired together. They share ideas together. This is super interactive. They're going to get to see what other practices are doing and help bring it back to your practice. Anyway, it is a wonderful use of time, effort, and energy. I promise that. I do everything in my power to help make it that. So anyway, registration closes in less than 2 weeks. Don't miss out. I'd love to see you at the Team Lead Summit on September 18th. All right. Let's get back into this episode. I've asked a lot of people, do you think veterinarians should get thicker skin? And I've gotten mixed results. Some people just sort of say, yeah, I think we should just ignore a lot of crap. And I've had other very persuasive people say, no, I don't think we should. I think that we're compassionate people and we should try to educate and we should, engage where we can to keep making people feel supported and to keep, to your point, trying to build a trust bank. And so let me ask you that question. Are you more on team thicker skin, or are you more on team, no, we should protect ourselves, but we should continue to kind of engage in the battle for truth? Where do you fall?
Right down the middle. I'm right down the middle, just to make it complicated, But
no, I think that's the right answer.
Yeah,
I mean, the middle path is usually the right one.
I absolutely agree with you. We can't take things so personally. We can't. We have to recognize that all of this is part of some ridiculous social media algorithm followers game, which we're not interested in anyways, right? And so
we shouldn't be. It's
Yeah.
funny how much it's funny how much people get sucked into that, and they're like, "Oh, I've got to get more followers," and I'm like, these people are not coming into your practice. What do you like? They're not supporting you. They're fighting with you. They're taking your time and your emotional energy, but they are not bringing their pet to you. What are you doing?
But I think the other thing too is, for myself, something I've been working on is that space in between, you know, my gut reaction to something and then a more logical, less emotion-based reaction to something. Here's the problem in social media is that social media moves quick. So the second that doctor posts that video, it goes viral within a matter of hours, right? And you've got about a 24-hour window to respond before people have forgotten about it entirely. So that's the problem. However, I do wish that was something we could all work on, which is how do we respond to things in a way that's less emotionally based and more factually based. And I say that with, again, a lot of heart because it's something I struggle with as well. But I think we come off a lot differently when we react defensively rather than reacting from an educational standpoint. Because here's what I see is this angry doctor posting this negative content, attacking another industry, right? If I'm a logical person on the internet, I'm going to take what he says with a grain of salt because I can already see who this person is. But if I then see, let's say, a vet tech respond and say, well, actually, I called this guy's practice and here's how he marks up his stuff. Are we not just doing the same thing he's just done, right? And again, I just want to be very clear that I'm saying this with so much heart because it's exactly what I wanted to do in the moment, right? When I saw it, okay, 1000%. But again, if I'm a pet owner on the internet and I see this video from this guy, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt, but I'm still going to be like, wow, those are some heavy markups. That's a little rough. How am I going to afford that when it comes to it? And now I see this vet tech posting, well, what about this guy? Human doctors don't have the best reputation right now either. So now I'm just going to lump you all into one class and say all medical professionals are dramatic and crazy and they're all marking it up and they're all screwing us over and I can't trust any of them. Versus if I've got DrAndyRoark comes over here on the internet, he goes, hey, I saw this video go viral recently, and if I was a pet owner watching it, I'd be really concerned. I really want to break this down for you guys so you can better understand why your vet bills look the way they are and how they work. That's going to change my view completely. I'm going to say, wow, that guy was really angry and trying to start some stuff on the internet. Look at this DrAndyRoark guy. Like, I feel like I can trust this guy. I'm going to listen to what he says a little bit better, you know?
I like your perspective here. I think that it's funny when you sort of say, you know, human medicine, you say, oh, these people are the worst. My idea is about human healthcare. You and I have talked about this before. This is one of the podcasts that we did was talking about being a patient and what we sort of learned. Human healthcare in this country is broken in my mind. However, I love my general practice doctor. She is great. I like her. I trust her. I'm so glad that I found her. I think that that's probably the duality that we're probably heading for.
That's a great point.
I think we can try to fight the good fight, and it's worth it. But ultimately, I think you framed it up really nicely. In my mind, I don't have great feelings about human healthcare right now. But I do really, really like my general practice doctor, and I do listen to her, and I do trust her and ask for her advice. And I expect that when I ask her things, she tells me the truth, and she helps me in the best way that she can. And so anyway, I think that may be the future and kind of where we're going. So anyway, Kelsey, thank you for coming on and talking through this with me. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. Always just to kind of flesh ideas out with us, with you. And I always love your thoughts on what's going on online and just sort of, I don't know, on life in general. So where can people find you online? So hiding in the
depths of Instagram watching funny dog videos. No, I'm Kelsey Beth Carpenter.
Send a self-addressed stamped envelope to the P.O. box.
You can fax me at. No, I'm Kelsey Beth Carpenter. I'm mostly spending time on Instagram and a little bit on Facebook these days.
You're so old.
I'm so old, but can I tell you real quick? My favorite thing on Facebook is this Facebook group. It's huge. It's got thousands of members in it. It's called the Dull Men's Club. And it's literally, it's not just for men, it's all people, but it's just people.
That was not remotely where I thought you were going with this.
It's literally just people posting the most dull moments of their life that make them so happy. So like someone posted the other day, you guys, I finally finished my chapstick. And it's like, how often do you finish a whole chapstick? You know?
That's
and
amazing.
It's like, what an accomplishment. Man, this really made my day. It's like, that's my new favorite thing on the internet. Group. Anyways, Kelsey Beth Carpenter on Facebook and Instagram. I'm pretty quiet on there these days, but I'm just kind of lurking in the background.
All right. Well, I know what I'm going to go check out on Facebook. So anyway. All right. Thank you for being here. Guys, thanks for tuning in and listening. Take care of yourselves, everybody. And that's what I got for you guys. Thank you for being here. Thanks to Kelsey Carpenter for coming along and being my co-pilot on the episode. Guys, if you're enjoying the podcast, please leave me a review wherever you get your podcast. It's how people find the show, and it means a lot to me. So anyway, thank you very, very much. You guys take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you later. Bye.